Sunday school teacher, local preacher, disciplinarian, foster mother. Those are some of the characteristics that describe Miss Browlia Florencia Millard. She worked in the field of education for 26 years as a kindergarten teacher in the brick building at the Princess Beatrix Clotter School, where today the Mac Kindergarten is located. She later retired in 1970. Welcome to Visions, Heroes and Heroines, a documentary honoring our local heroes and heroines. In this edition, we will take a look back at the life of Miss Browlia Florencia Millard and the contributions she made to our community. Miss Browlia was born in St. Martin on January 21st, 1902, to Mr. George Frederick Millard and Mrs. Izulma Panine Millard Lamani. Now we will listen to former Sunday school teachers, former students, former church members, and her adopted son. Thelma, well known in the Methodist Church, was superintendent of the Sunday school from 1980 to 2002, a function Miss Browlia held for years. Thelma remembers when all the children used to call her teacher.
In 1920, she started a school at a brick building, which is now the MAC. She started that in 1920. Being that she was a staunch Methodist, she started this kindergarten school there. And it ran in two grades, the little chicks, as they would call it, and the big chicks. The little chicks, when you reach the big chicks, then you'll go to the Orania school. And she would line you up. That was a big something. She would line you up in the thing, and you will march from the Methodist church down to the Orania school. She was usually called teacher. That was her nickname, teacher. She would call her teacher by most of all the children in the room. Ms. Browlia, she ran and operated the school with her own finance for many years, without a salary.
Known to many as a politician, Mr. Vance James is one of the many persons that has been influenced by the works of Miss Browlia Millard. As a former student of Miss Browlia, he remembers his Sunday school days at the Methodist Church.
Well, what Miss Browlia was, she was, first of all, in the church, she was the superintendent of the Sunday school, which meant the one responsible for making sure the teaching takes place and dealing with the teachers and the children. In addition to that, she was head of what was known for many years as the Methodist Kindergarten. For many years, the Methodist Church in Phillipsburg had a kindergarten school. They didn't have any elementary school. The Methodist Agogic Center only came into existence in 1976. Prior to that, for many, many years, kindergarten school and the children from the Methodist kindergarten school almost automatically went to the Orania school. And she was the head of the Methodist kindergarten school also for a number of years. Well, she taught me at Sunday school. I didn't attend the Methodist kindergarten school, but she did taught me at Sunday school. And the attributes would be, one, she was a disciplinarian, but at the same time, she was a caring person, so that she knew how to be sharp, and the tone of her voice would tell you what is what. But her concern, her genuine concern and care for children and their development is the key thing that I would say you would remember of Miss Browlia. Well, I can remember one thing I remember was when the cornerstone was laid for the Methodist Kindergarten School in Phillipsburg, now on the grounds of the Methodist Church. That was built by Dutch funds many, many years ago, and Princess Beatrix at the time. She was princess. She laid the cornerstone for that, and I can distinctly remember that little ceremony under the almond tree at the time, which was there, and that was for Miss Browder a very proud moment to be able, because she was a very strong believer as well in royalty and the royal house. And so that was a significant thing for her as well. And that's the reason too the school is called the Princess Beatrix Kindergarten. It was named after Princess Beatrix at the time as well. That was a proud moment for Miss Browler that I could remember.
Miss Browler was a lady that never shunned anyone. Here, another well-known person in our community tells us of his experiences as a former Sunday school student.
I knew Miss Browler, and I believe in two ways. One as a teacher in the kindergarten, but I think my most memories I have of her is when she was a Sunday school teacher in the Sunday school afternoon, when we, as kids, used to go to the Methodist church, and they used to have classes for the Bible classes, really, at the Methodist church in Phillipsburg. Well, she was the Sunday school teacher, I think, that stressed the importance of having values. And I believe that is, if I can remember clearly, is the greatest impact that she has had. Well, I guess at that time we were what they call these days the impressionable age, and given the reinforcement of the values that we learn, I think that she has helped us to become good citizens of St. Martin, with a tendency to make a lot of voluntary contributions to our community, and I think that would be her greatest achievement.
Miss Browler was never married and never had any children of her own, but she was a mother to many. She took in many students in a home that traveled to St. Martin from Sabre and St. Eustatius. Some of the children she reared were Louis Yates, Irma, and Donald Abdul Hamid.
She was more than a mother. She catered and cared for every child that passed through her hands. There was not one particular or one specific. I mean, she loved everyone that close to her, but every neighbor, every child in her class, she loved just as much as she loved us. You know, she had no children of her own. Well, Miss Browlia was a church lady, and she was very, very strict. There was no halfways. Everything had to be 100%. Otherwise, you know, it was very difficult to be around. Not difficult, but she was always hammering on what's right and what's wrong. She was a strict lady. You know, without licks, she never used to beat, but she would talk your head off, I tell you. She would really confuse you with what's right and wrong, keep you busy talking to you. She would say, she would rather talk than to use a rod. Every Sunday we had to go to church in the morning, there was Sunday school in the afternoon, and there was some church or somewhere she had to go and preach in the evening. So I had to be tagging along to church in the morning, Sunday school in the afternoon, then in the evening we had to go either French Cul-de-sac, Grand Cause, French Quarter, Marigot. You know, she used to preach in all these churches, and every day there was something to do every day. When I was like on the arm, when I had to be there, every night there was something to do. So she had a very active church life, as far as I can remember.
Reverend Irad Hodge was the caretaker of the Methodist Church, and he remembers Miss Browler when she was an active member of the Methodist Church.
When I came from Anguilla to work as the caretaker of the Methodist Church, I served as the sexton of the church, took care of the yard and all the surroundings, and Miss Millard, then being the superintendent of the Sunday school and also a local preacher, I was much involved in her company, and therefore I saw her every day of the week, as it were, because she also was school mistress of the kindergarten school. So being I had to be around in the yard, I would see her coming from her home every morning to take over in the school. And with respect to being in the Sunday school, I became a teacher in the Sunday school, and in many cases she was also, being a lay reader, had to have the evening service at the church. So many afternoons, both herself and I would stay in the vestry, rather than she going back home for an hour and a half or something like that. And we would conversate in different respects with regards to the Sunday school, what possibilities there were to use some of the older children as teachers, and what motivation could be given to make the Sunday school a little more alive, you know what I mean? And so I have that fond memory of her and myself talking over in these ways. And I could say that she was a very profound lady. She was a no-nonsense woman. Whenever she said something to you, you could bet that it had some sense in it. And so I would say that she was totally a devoted Christian to her church, and she lived a life, I'm sure, which was an example to many. She lived up the street on the back street, but she definitely, as far as I have heard, she got some of those qualities from an aunt of hers, Miss Rainbow, who was also a local preacher and a very profound lady in the Methodist Church before she moved to Santo Domingo. So Miss Browlia's qualities, I am sure, came from her ancestors.
Besides being superintendent of the Sunday school, Ms. Browlia was very active in the Methodist Church and was very instrumental in bringing the Women's League to St. Martin. Let us hear from Mrs. Eulalie Myers about Ms. Browlia's involvement in the Phillipsburg Women's League.
The idea behind that was many years ago in 1948, so to speak, yes. There was the deaconess came down from Antigua, Sister Coke, and already there was a league in Coal Bay, started by Mrs. Hazel. And the other churches, they wanted a women's league also, because there were already a girls' league. And when Sister Gladys Coke came down from Antigua, Miss Browlia and other women also approached her to have a women's league on St. Martin. Incidentally, I was one of those founders of the Women's League, and incidentally, I'm the only one alive today. The only one, and that is from 48, that's 50, 56, 56, 53 years, 56 years now. Yeah, that we have Women's League, and it has been a great help to women on this island. It has made women realize how important and what an important role, contribution they can be to their church. You know, there are some churches who will not allow a woman to speak in their church. In our churches, you are encouraged. You know, and Miss Browlia is one of those persons that would encourage women to become preachers, to become Sunday school teachers, to be singing in the choir. She really was an encourager. Her contribution was great. To the Methodist Church, it was everything. Miss Browlia was a steward, circuit steward in the church for many years. She was one of our first lay preachers. And as I said, she was not the first president, she was the second president of the Women's League. But she served as vice president, as secretary, as treasurer. She held every post in the Women's League. She was a leader in her church. She was a choir member in her church. And she was just everything in the Methodist Church. And she was an encourager. She loved to encourage youngsters, you know, to follow Christ. She was the superintendent of the Sunday school also. She was a role model for me. And as I said, she was an encourager. Being we were neighbors, she taught me to begin with in kindergarten. That was in the brick building. That was my teacher in the kindergarten school. And she sacrificed greatly to the school because there was there was no payment for her, no monthly wages coming to her. It was all on a voluntary basis. And she would send to her sisters and brother in the States, and they would send her down material such as construction paper, little scissors and the glues and different things. And she would teach us how to make little mats and stars and baskets and things like that with her hands. She always had an Easter. We would have our program, and on Christmas she would send the sexton from the church in the hills, and they would bring down 2 big cherry trees, and they would be decorated as our Christmas trees. And we would have our program, and each child in that school was sure they would be getting a present. Around the Christmas, Santa Claus would come. Some of us would be afraid of Santa Claus. Some of us will just go to Santa Claus and greet him and grab our presents and run. You know how it would be with children.
From humble beginnings, you rose, weathering the many storms of time. Browlia F. Millard School, you have stood the test. Christian principles, morals, values, instilled within your walls, build foundation strong and sure, helping lives to mold and grow, virtuous ways to cherish. Many have passed through the doors, many will enter too. Those who come willingly to serve, and those who come eagerly to learn, pledge we to uphold your name. As time passes by day, your voice echoes far and wide. Your positive influence reaches out, forward ever, backwards never. Browlia F. Millard School, to us, you are the best. Resting never, will endeavor, till our will be so much better, and our better best.
Seeing that Ms. Browlia makes significant contributions in the field of education, Campus 1 of the Methodist Agogic Center was named after her. Mr. Clinton Spring, Executive Director of the MAC, walks us through that selection journey.
Yes, one of the philosophies of the MAC is that it's sort of a pay homage to persons who have made great contribution, whether in the church or in education. But since the pedagogic section of the MAC is at the moment, is in education, then we sort of do our research, and we found out that Ms. Browlia Millard had made a very significant contribution in the early development of education here in St. Martin. And being a Methodist, then we sort of decided that she will be one of the patrons of our campuses. So for the Campus 1, she is the patron of the Methodist Agogic Center. Yes, being a pioneer in Methodist education, especially the work that she has done at the Brick Building School, as it were, we have seen that she has lit what we call an eternal flame in those days. And then with the development of the Methodist Agogic Center, that flame has now been fanned into what we might call fire, because we as the Methodist Agogic Center, we count ourselves as one of the trailblazers, and it is because of that initial work of Miss Browlia that the Methodist Agogic Center actually continued to make significant contribution of education here in St. Martin.
During her interview, Ms. Stelber spoke about the ceremonial walk with the children that were to attend Orania School once they finished the MAC kindergarten here. Mr. Spring also makes mention of that ceremonial walk.
Well, one of the things that we in particular remember about Ms. Browlia from our research is that she, at the end of the school year, she had a ceremonial walk, in that she take the children from the brick building, because 90% or more of the children would attend the Orania School. So they had this ceremonial walk, which both pupils and parents and members of the church look forward to, where they walk from the brick building to the Orania School, where the children have been, as it were, admitted into that particular school. So that's a walk that almost everybody, when you speak to them about Ms. Browlia, that they'll tell you about.
Prior to her passing in 1995, Ms. Browlia had an interview with Oral Gibbs. In that interview, she mentioned, "I have no complaints in life, me boy." Let us hear more.
So I was getting older, and some of them were saying it's time for me to retire and let new ones come in.
Why?
I said, go right ahead, my child. If you feel that way, go right ahead, but I am a energetic woman. And I said, I got to work till the day. And you could believe me that I am so happy when I am doing other things to help others. I feel like I'm in heaven. And they are so happy with me. I got no complaints in life, my boy. I thank God all the way because our mother trained us in different ways how to treat the people. Trained because you white, that I got to treat you better than I treat the black boy. He has his way. And sometimes those boys were better than the white ones, you know. You could call them anytime and and ask them a question about something pertaining to the work that they were doing. And they were up to mark. There was no lazy boy lying down saying, I don't remember this and I don't remember that. And they were vexed when I took them in with me. The people were vexed, you know, because they said, that boy does work over there. I said, well, I want him to teach me. And when he finished teaching me, I can teach you. We had some happy days with the different people, you know. I never felt that I was, because I was superior, that I had to treat them like they are inferior. Like that.
What about your work in the church? You haven't told me anything much about that.
Oh, well, no, I'm not as deep as I should be, because they have a lot of young people coming up.
Huh.
And before they take the world, I bring them into the church. And so we had them well trained. That when they went away and to work, they wrote me and they tell me that God will always bless me for the training that I gave them, even though they were not my family, but they were girls that had a pep in them. And I trained them how to act with everybody. Don't bawl out and make a big noise and all of that. The calmer you are, the quieter you are. Those people are learning you through that.
Yeah.
So you must do your best for them. Let them see that you mean what you are doing. I did my share to help others. But as the luck says, I have no luck. I said, bugger luck, God is taking care of me. So in his hands I am, positively.
But you enjoy those years as a lay preacher in the Methodist Church?
Yes, I work there for for years. I train girls to take their places when we are old and can't walk. They are ready to take right over.
Were they able to take over when you left?
I never left them.
Uh-huh.
I was always in the walk of God, I call it. God's walk. And I said I couldn't turn my back on that.
At the age of 93, on November the 25th, 1995, Miss Browlia Florencia Millard left us. Miss Browlia was very interested in the advancement of her people, and she cared and dedicated her attention to the youth, being gentle but firm, to stimulate the growth of their minds and to liberate their eager spirits, to seek out new experiences. Her goal and vision has developed from the brick building school to the Princess Beatrix Cloete School, to what we now have today, the Methodist Agogic Center. Her work has not gone unnoticed as she received a royal decoration from Her Majesty Queen Juliana. Thank you for joining us on another journey of visions. Goodbye.